Major funding for this program is made possible by grants from Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, and Perfect Building Maintenance, New York Community Bank, Kilroy Architectural Windows, Inc., New York's window company, Capital One Bank, Greenberg Traurig, LLP. Additional funding for this program is made possible by grants from AVR Realty Company, LLC, Briarwood Organization, Beechwood Organization, C.B. Richard Ellis, Cushman & Wakefield, Dime Savings Bank of Williamsburg, Hal Fettner, Durst Fettner Residential, First American Title Insurance Company of New York, F.J. Siami Construction, Friedman LLP, Gemini Real Estate Advisors LLC, Investors Savings Bank, Jack Jaffa and Associates Real Estate Consultants, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Institute at Syracuse University, Madison Realty Capital, Massey Knackel Realty Services, M&T Bank, Markham LLP, Marcus and Millichap Real Estate Investment Services, Meridian Capital Group, The Moynihan Group, Margolin Weiner and Evans LLP, Newmark Knight Frank, Orphanides and Associates, SJP Properties, Sterling and Sterling Inc., Stonehenge Partners, Urban American, The Wickoff Group.
Hello, my name is Michael Stoller. New York City has many buildings, and residential is really what New York is about. We have commercial, but people live in New York, and people need housing. Today I'm fortunate to have Mario Procida, who is the president and CEO of Procida Realty and Construction, a third-generation realty company who's been involved with development throughout the city. Hello, Mario. Thanks for coming.
Hi, Michael. Thanks for having me.
So, Mario, you're the third generation. Your grandfather started the business. Then your dad and mom, who were still alive, are in the business. That's your father, Joe. And you were born, you told me, in Bellevue Hospital. And then you grew up originally on the Lower East Side.
Correct.
And then
7th Street.
7th Street. Then you moved uptown? Where'd you move?
We moved uptown to the newly constructed apartments at the George Washington Bridge. There are 4 towers there. I think we lived in the second of the 2. We lived there for about a year.
And then you moved to Dumont, New Jersey.
Dumont, New Jersey,
but
yes.
But in that period, your father, who had his office, his construction office downtown, moved, as they would say in the proverbial world of when the Bronx was burning, right?
Yes. I think my parents got tired of commuting down the FDR in traffic. And my father found a building in the Bronx on 173rd between Park and Washington, which is what everybody would think of as the South Bronx. We think of it as the Mid-Bronx. And we've been there since probably 1973.
Now, when you were in high school, you went to some of the job sites, and you also you played basketball, and then you decided you went to Lehigh University. How did you decide on Lehigh?
Not with a lot of thought. My father was convinced I should go to school for civil engineering. He had a disdain for architects as a contractor. Felt engineering was a good background. Lehigh had a great engineering program. I wanted to play basketball. I was going there, I was playing some basketball, and that's how I ended up at Lehigh.
And you were a point guard, right?
Yes.
So at Lehigh, in the summers you're working, you're continuing the construction, and then this guy who lived in Dumont, New Jersey. What happened? UCLA? I mean...
Well, I picked up architecture at Lehigh. Decided to go to grad school. So I applied to the Ivies in UCLA. By default, I ended up at UCLA, and it was a great experience.
You spent two years at the UCLA?
No, 3.
3 years at UCLA?
3 years, 6 blocks from the Pacific Ocean.
Wait, UCLA is in Westwood. Is it 6 blocks from the Pacific?
No, but my house was 6 blocks from the ocean.
Very nice.
Great way to go to grad
Great
school.
way to go to graduate school. So then, you spent about a year traveling the country, or half a year coming back?
No, school ended, and drove back cross country and went to work.
Now, you went to work, and this was really, your grandfather, your dad, the business was really more as a contractor, as a builder. And you went to work on one of the first projects that the family got into in the building, right?
Yeah, well, I got back from school in '83. And at that point, we were in the Bronx, well entrenched in the cellar in our building. And we had already begun the development of the White Beach Condominium project.
So what was White Beach? I mean, the Bronx was burning, lots of people, nobody wanted to be in the city. What was White Beach?
Well, White Beach is in Throg's next section of the Bronx. It's spectacular, on the water. A little tough to commute to Manhattan, but on the water nonetheless. We developed 55 units.
Single family, two
No,
family?
55 condos in 3 buildings.
And what were the prices for these units?
I don't remember, but at that point, we sold a combined unit to one, I think it was a window contractor, for like $500,000, which was the largest sale of anything at that point in the Bronx.
In the Bronx. And then you got involved with a number of affordable, the South Bronx Desperados?
Mid-Bronx Desperados.
What was the Mid-Bronx Desperados?
Sounds
like, a new Indian game or something.
Well, MBD Community Housing Corp. was involved in the development of Charlotte Gardens, which was, got a great deal of notoriety with Reagan and Carter. But the New York City Housing Partnership, and this is probably mid-'80s, started their program. And needless to say, there was a lot of property in the Bronx. Everything was burned. So MBD was involved in the development of a lot of the sites in their neighborhood. And they were interviewing prospective developers. We were local. We were local.
You were community. You were truly a community operator.
Right. And over the years, we probably developed 1,000 or so units up in the Bronx.
Now, you did Melrose.
We did a few phases of Salter Square. We graduated from single family, which were the first product out there, to 2-family houses. I would say our most successful development was Melrose Court, which was 256 units of 256 condos. And that won a Pillars of the Industry Award for the best affordable housing project in the country in 1994. And it was an interesting challenge. I mean, it was an interesting challenge to finance it. It was an interesting challenge to sell it. Building it was not terribly difficult. That was the easiest part. But convincing people or convincing lenders you could actually sell 256 condos, and this started in 1991.
Now, were these market rate or affordable condos?
No, they were all affordable. But, affordable is an interesting term, because basically we were selling at as much as we could sell a unit for. And so I always think of affordable as
below market.
Well, no, not below market. Having your sales price actually be able to catch up to your costs, because your cost of production greatly exceeded what you could ever hope to sell a unit for. So, yes, it was affordable. It was affordable by income means, but, the people that were buyers had a certain income strata. It was market for them. Yes, it was affordable to the rest of the world.
But, I mean, the most important thing is that, because the Bronx had a problem with housing, had needed development, you built these housing for those people. I mean, you built housing for the community. You offered it to people, home ownership, which is an important value that people want. And you also brought some retail, I assume, in the community also, because there was a lack of retail in the Bronx, as well as in most urban centers.
Yes, we've had an opportunity to build neighborhoods. It's which is a nice thing. It's a very tactile business.
So now it's mid-90s, and I know you grew up in Dumont. You went to Lehigh in Pennsylvania. Camden, New Jersey?
Camden, New Jersey.
I mean, home of Campbell's Soup and not too much more.
And RCA.
RCA, right?
And a lot of other things that weren't necessarily great. Somehow we ended up down there. I don't know who my brother ran into, but we end up in Camden. It probably took us 4 or 5 administrations to get to the point of building the first 2 of what was supposed to be 40 for-sale houses. We had the houses on the market. We couldn't get anybody to qualify to buy them. We had no qualified income purchasers. Eventually, we returned those 2 homes to the redevelopment agency in Camden.
The good thing is when you're in Camden, you're not too far from Atlantic City.
Right.
And what happens in Atlantic City?
Well, the architects that we were working with in Camden were aware of an RFP, a request for proposals, that was coming out in Atlantic City through the Casino Reinvestment Development Authority. We applied for it. After a lot of deliberation, we were awarded the rights to develop what became known as Madison Landing, which were, I think, about 78 fee-simple for-sale houses. Madison Landing won the Governor's Housing Award in, I think it was 1998. It's a community that's about a block and a half from the ocean. And we've been down in Atlantic City since '96. I think we're the largest home builder on the island. We have about 300 or 400 units to develop down there.
What have you built so far down in, besides Madison Landing?
We've built a couple of phases of Madison Landing, and then we've built a variety of smaller scale developments in sort of 20 to 30 unit.
And now you have another one, you said to me when we met, another 100 unit, maybe in partnership with the Kushner organization?
Yes, Caspian Point, which we're going to develop in partnership with Kushner Companies, is in the planning process right now, and that's right on the water. That's a spectacular site.
And what is that?
It will be fee-simple, single-family homes.
And what type of pricing do you think they'll be?
300 to 600.
It's a great opportunity to be in the water in Atlantic City.
Can't beat the water.
So now, so now we leave there. So during this period of time, you're building affordable housing in New York. You're building communities throughout New York City, Atlantic City, and one day you get to Brooklyn. I mean, I grew up in Brooklyn. I'm biased to Brooklyn, and you got to downtown Brooklyn, Boerum Hill. How'd that happen?
Well, we had been in Brooklyn before. We were a contractor in Brooklyn. But what happens is, through a broker who I met through an architect, I meet one of our current partners, Louis Greco, and his partner, Lou Horowitz. And we start talking about the possibility of doing development deals together. And we looked at a few, and eventually we focused in on a site at the corner of Boerum and State Street, right next to the jail, right across the street from the jail. And we plan a 99-unit rental building that we bring GMAC in as our financial partner. And Lou and I start our own little development business.
So you're over there, and this is you called it really Boulevard East, right?
Correct.
We called it Boulevard East, and it was going to be a rental. But even though it's right across the street from the Brooklyn House of Detention, which happened to close later on, which is probably going to reopen, it's also across the street from Boymel Green. The new hotel, I think, is across the street from it right now afterwards.
New hotel's behind it. The new law school building's across the street from it. It turned into a great spot.
It's a great location. It's downtown Brooklyn. It's right near the law school. It's near File Hall and everything. And what happens? You decide that the market is getting better. It's going to be a condo, right? Well,
Louis had the stroke of genius to say that as the market started to pick up, that we should turn the building into a condo. And we started negotiations with GMAC on the possibility of a buyout because their fund was not permitted to do condos. We arranged to buy them out, and Boulevard East, which at that point was 53 Borum Place, becomes Boulevard East, which becomes the first of our BAT properties.
And you sell out?
Sold out at a reasonably good pace. Somewhere along the way, Lewis starts to get involved in what is now known as our Richard Meier on Prospect Park site.
Which for people, this is the property in Brooklyn. I mean, there's no Richard Meier property in Brooklyn. It's a glass building. It's right on Prospect Park, across the street from the library, Grand Army Plaza. It's a fantastic building. Let's talk about that.
It is. It's a spectacular site. It's a spectacular building, and it was designed by one of the foremost architects in the world. We had a great site. We were about ready to do a relatively traditional building that we would have sold as a condo. Sheldon Gordon, who became a partner of ours in Boulevard East, came out to look at the site, thought it was a great site, happened to be a good friend of Richard's, and suggested we call Richard. And, you know, here we sit with One Prospect Park and what is the luxury apartment building in Brooklyn. And it's moving along. Sales are doing reasonably well despite the marketplace.
How many units are there?
There are 96 units in the building. We've done several reconfigurations to adapt to changes in the market. It's primarily family units, 3 and 4 bedroom apartments, some 2s, and we're about 60% sold.
Let's next fast forward. We get into Manhattan now. Lewis finds another site, right?
Lewis and Lou were in contract and in the process of developing what became Be It Clinton West, which is over the rail yards on 46th and 40th.
Which was one of the first projects on the rail yards on the Amtrak.
It was the first project south of 57th Street that was done in over 20 years. Trump was building over the yards up north. Nothing was happening over the rail yards to the south of 57th Street.
So being in that neighborhood, how difficult is it to build over the yards?
Pretty interesting proposition. I mean, it was interesting because we were really first down there, so that there was stuff that happened that we weren't aware of. There were things that probably Amtrak wasn't aware of and DOT wasn't aware of that subsequently unfolded during the process. But we hired a great road builder who built our platform because basically we were building a bridge. And then on top of the bridge, we built 2 very simple 7-story buildings that were supposed to be a meat and potatoes rental apartment building. Rental apartment building. Very similar to Boulevard East. Started out as a rental. Market took off. We made changes. We found a new lender. We brought HSBC in as our lender to take over for Fremont. And we built 147 condos. And they sold out in about 8 days with little to no marketing, very well priced.
Timing is everything, Mario.
Timing is just, it's unbelievable.
So that project, and then then you go back into Brooklyn? Is it?
Well, we were in several different venues at the same time. We were working on acquiring our property that's currently known as Be It Schermerhorn while we were developing Prospect.
Let's talk about Be It Schermerhorn. We'll go to Brooklyn, then we'll go to Lower Manhattan, then we'll go back to Uptown Manhattan.
Okay.
So the Be It Schermerhorn.
Be It Schermerhorn was an assemblage we put together. We subsequently brought in Jamestown Properties as our partner, who has been a terrific partner for us. We go through the building process. We go fairly far down the line, and we're getting ready to open sales, and the market craters. I mean,
now, how big is the Be It Schermerhorn?
It's 246 units.
Right. I mean, A block away from the old A&S, which is Macy's today.
Right across the
right
street
in the neighborhood,
from
and very
Macy's.
close to be at Borum Hill.
Right.
Very close to be over there. And then you decide to go into Lower Manhattan at the B at Williams Street.
Correct.
So what was that?
It was an acquisition of an office building, partially occupied. We bought the building with the intention of vacating it and again converting it to our B-at line.
Now, was that at 421G?
Yes.
So your tenants, the people who bought the end users, were able to get tax benefits for their apartments.
Yes.
So, which gave them a great opportunity, and look at the vibrancy of what's happening in Lower Manhattan.
Yes, subsequent to there were several people developing downtown when we went down there. Then the new school opened up they opened up dorms right next door to us. It's right down the block from the Fed. It's on a park, so there's got a lot of opening along Williams Street. So the project did well, it sold well, and
now let's go back to Clinton neighborhood, the newest project.
Newest project, the Dillon, on West 53rd between 9th and 10th.
This time you're not on the tracks.
Not on the tracks.
But you're in the Chelsea in the
Clinton district.
In the Clinton district, where you're limited to the height limit.
Height limit of 66 feet.
So you make this a little different because you're height district. So what do you do over here?
Well, the architect there was Henry Smith Miller. Created a great plan, and we have 83 very unique apartments. The building's longer than a football field, so it's in excess of 300 feet long. It's a crinkle-cut facade, all glass, and really spectacular. The units are terrific. We have 9 townhouses there, all of which enter off the street, and all of which have their own parking in the cellar. We have parking in the cellar. So you can you park your car, get out of your car, walk into your unit, into the cellar of your unit, and come up into your townhouse. So you've got 9 townhouses. We have 53 what we call flats, which are semi-traditional apartments. And then we have 22 duplex apartments, 11 of which are penthouse units.
Very interesting.
Sales are moving quite well.
And look, where can you get a new townhouse in Manhattan? That opportunity plus the uniqueness. And that neighborhood right now, Mercedes-Benz, 2 blocks away, is building their...
Down the block. They're literally down the block.
Their headquarters, the new Ink Hotel opened up on 48th Street and 11th Avenue. Avalon Bay is planning to build on 57th Street. I mean, and also 9th Avenue has really been gentrified over the years. It's been a totally different situation. But we were talking prior to the show, you're also building some retail now up in the Bronx with a food bazaar or something?
Yeah, we have 40,000-foot center we're about to break ground on with Food Bazaar as our anchor tenant. Financing's been a little challenging, but we now have it lined up with Hudson Valley Bank, and we're prepared to go forward on that.
And you're continuing to do a large amount of affordable in today's market, right? You were mentioning.
We're doing a large amount of affordable housing. We continue to be active in Atlantic City. Our construction company continues to be active on a third-party construction basis. So, it looks like we believe we've weathered at least the storm to date.
Now, Mom and Dad still come into the office?
Every day.
Really?
Every day. They're active in the business.
Now, besides your parents, your sister and brother are active.
Right. My sister runs the brokerage operation. My brother's involved in the construction operation.
And okay, you're married for what, 24 years, I think?
Something like that. Yes.
And your wife is Perry?
Yes.
And she originally was with NBC at one time?
She was in sales at NBC in a variety of day parts, and then went over to the internet world and ran a couple of sales operations for...
and she's with a new internet startup now, you said, right?
She is.
And you have 4?
4 children.
So don't screw up, okay? Let's go over the 4 children.
All right. Our eldest daughter, Dylan, is a senior at Lehigh this year. We have a son who's...
Okay, she's a senior at Lehigh?
Yes.
And what is she going for?
She's in the IBE, which is their business and engineering program.
And then you have a son at Harvard.
Right.
His name?
Peter.
He's what? He's 21, right?
Yes.
Then you have?
We have another son, Michael.
I'm testing you. I'm testing
We have
you.
another son, Michael, who's at the Berkshire School, who's a senior this year, and a daughter at Greenwich Academy, who's a junior.
So now, do you foresee, or would you like the same way that your grandfather saw your father go into the business, your father saw you and your brothers and sisters, do you see your kids going into the business?
Well, growing up, my father always said you're going into the business. It wasn't like there was a whole world out there. He just kept saying you're going in, you're going in, you're going in. Which didn't really give me an opportunity to think about looking elsewhere. Maybe that was the easy way out. As a kid, I didn't have to worry about what I wanted to be when I grew up.
Right, but you have to remember, the business before, was really in the contracting business, was not really in the development business.
Right. So, I'm not pushing our kids. We'll see where it goes. I mean, some of them might be interested, and, you just never know.
Mentors in your life?
I'd say, my father was a significant mentor. But, as we talked about earlier, I think I have the ability to learn from somebody every day. Anybody that I come into contact with allows for growth opportunities. So, I've had coaches that have been significant in my life, but, you get learning points all along the way from anybody that's walking the street.
So, for the kid who was born in Bellevue, grew up in the Lower East Side, then to the West Side, Dumont, now living in Connecticut, correct?
Correct.
I'd say you, the Procida family, have truly been builders of New York and New Jersey. I can't forget Atlantic City.
Yes.
I'd like to thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Michael. It's a pleasure.
Major funding for this program is made possible by grants from Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, and Perfect Building Maintenance, New York Community Bank, Kilroy Architectural Windows, Inc., New York's window company, Capital One Bank, Greenberg Traurig, LLP. Additional funding for this program is made possible by grants from AVR Realty Company, LLC, Briarwood Organization, Beechwood Organization, C.B. Richard Ellis, Cushman & Wakefield, Dime Savings Bank of Williamsburg, Hal Fettner, Durst Fettner Residential, First American Title Insurance Company of New York, F.J. Siami Construction, Friedman LLP, Gemini Real Estate Advisors LLC, Investors Savings Bank, Jack Jaffa and Associates Real Estate Consultants, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Institute at Syracuse University, Madison Realty Capital, Massey Knackle Realty Services, M&T Bank, Markham LLP, Marcus and Millichap Real Estate Investment Services, Meridian Capital Group, the Moynihan Group, Margolin Weiner and Evans LLP, Newmark Knight Frank, Orphanides and Associates, SJP Properties, Sterling & Sterling Inc., Stonehenge Partners, Urban American, the Wickoff Group.